Oh, yeah. Another good story for you to do it.
Already said, dead in 6 months. Well, Crow said he was you.
Can't tell you who.
We need another one. Here, take mine. I'll look off Steve's.
It's about 7 o'clock. And we'll officially call to order the June 12th, 2012 common council session. Please stand with me and join in the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Lamb.
Present.
Councilmember Alexander. Here. Councilmember Ayers. Present. Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Martindale.
Here.
Councilmember Fertile. Here. Attorney Colorado. Chief of Police Cameron.
He's not going to be here this evening. Thanks. Jesse, do you have the police report this evening?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Jesse does. Fire Chief Robertson.
Here.
Street Superintendent Bowes.
Here.
Mechanic Collins.
Here.
Sewer Department, Floyd Hunter.
Here.
And oh, shoot, I was on your building commissioner, Towns.
Somewhere. Good. Okay, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the prior meeting? And do we have a motion to accept those as read?
I'll make the motion.
And motion Ayers, we have a second? Second Alexander.
Councilmember Fertile.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown.
I was not reading.
Okay. Councilmember Martindale.
Aye.
Councilmember Ayers. Aye. Councilmember Alexander.
Aye.
All ayes.
Okay, are there any citizens that are present this evening to address the council?
I have a favor to ask. On June the 22nd, there's going to be some old people come back to Sullivan. The class that graduated, I know. Classes of 1960 to 1969 are going to be in Sullivan on Friday night downtown, and at the Elks on Saturday night, and then at the church on at Crossroads on Sunday. The favor I'd like to ask is, would it be okay if we use the corner across from Crossroads in the courthouse lawn, and then some people who have old cars are bringing their old cars also? Could we just block off that inside part of the square just for the evening?
The inside part on Washington or Court?
Court.
Okay, on the, yeah, I don't foresee it. I mean, the Board of Public Works would have officially make that decision, but it's June 22nd.
Yes.
So, I mean, if the council wants to do a resolution, I don't foresee any issue with.
We just might have to move those young kids over a little bit.
Yeah, you might set up your own
I
barricade.
guarantee you we'll pick up our trash.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Lead by example.
We shouldn't be, you know, we wouldn't be there late. I can think that.
Speak for yourself.
Okay. Well, I think Grunts will be open late. You know, I know you go there a lot.
Don't throw all your depends in the trash.
Okay, we will do that. We will do that. Do you think it might be okay if we did that?
I mean, without a vote, does the board of works see any issue with that?
How far down you want the hose either?
Well, I think maybe we might have to. There's like several people in that, those classes who have old cars.
That's on the inside of court.
Yeah, what I thought maybe I might do is park my car on one end and Diane Loudermilk would park hers on the other, and we would try to block that off to keep, the car club asked me to do that because they don't want people opening their doors into their nice vehicle. So if we could do that, we wouldn't do it till after 5 o'clock, till the courthouse and the stores are closed, if that's okay.
They're having a car show in like 2 days, I think.
They're having it, they're just going to participate Friday night, and then their
Okay.
big show is on Sunday, I believe. Okay, thanks.
Okay, are there any other citizens present to address the council? Okay. Any additions or deletions to this evening's agenda? Okay. Moving right along, new old business. New business item number 1. I'd like to welcome Doug Kelly from GAI and his fine staff and team.
Chair back there.
There you go. Hollywood.
Sorry to disrupt yourself.
That's all right. Fashionably late appearance. Okay. Would you like to take it from here? Oh, okay. Nick, if you want to go ahead and kick off for this, it's the same subject.
Yep.
And by the way, this is Nick Kyle from Barnes and Thornburg.
Barnes and Thornburg. Let me give you all a handout here. Hopefully this will. We're here to talk about annexation, and the mayor has shared with me that it's been since 1959 since Sullivan's did an annexation. So I kind of think it would make a lot of sense for us to sort of talk about what the process is, why we might do an annexation, why anybody would do an annexation, and how we would go about doing it, and then kind of have a draft timetable for you that we can work from. I'm going to work from this first from this sheet, from this table that's called Annexation FAQs. If at any time you got questions, just hold your hand up, yell at me, do whatever, throw something at me, and I'll try to answer it. And I've done a lot of annexations through the years, and these are just sort of the questions that, the most frequent questions that I get when we're doing annexations, so hence, that's why they're frequent. The first one right off the bat, and it's the one that always we get asked by the people that are going to be annexed, which is why? Why would you do this? And of all of the annexations that I've ever done, they usually come down to one of three, or maybe even two or three, or three of three, but it's always these 3 reasons that are kind of, melding together there and forming the reason. One is economic development. You got an area that you need to reach to develop, or you want to control how it develops, or it needs resources in order to develop that the city can only provide, and after it develops, you want to capture the financial benefit from it. So economic development is one reason why we typically do annexation. A second reason is we want to match the city boundaries with the city service areas. It may seem surprising to a lot of folks who are out of town, but cities are not in the business of providing services outside town. That's not why you exist. It's not your purpose. Your purpose is to provide services to your constituents. And over time, for one reason or the other, sometimes out of just pure benevolence, Many municipalities have allowed their services to bleed over the corporate limits, extend over the corporate limits, and at some point, that has to catch up. Those services were never extended with the notion that they would be there forever outside town, and so it just is a guarantee that at some point, when those services bleed across the line, they got to catch up and they got to come in. And then the third reason is the elimination of subsidies. And this is sort of part and parcel of the second reason, if you will. There are two types of subsidies that exist because of our government structure, our local government structure. The first one is the easy one for everybody to recognize, which is if you live right outside town, right across the corporate limits, you tend to use a lot of the services that are in town. You drive on the streets. If you have an emergency call, the police officer's going to respond, or the fire truck's going to respond. Sometimes you have, water or wastewater service, things like this, and you're not paying for all of the services that come from town. You're not sharing in the costs of building the infrastructure of the town. You're only wanting to sit out there and pick and choose and pay for the services that you want. Well, what that does is it leaves the balance of the folks in town to end up carrying more of the load for folks who are outside town. And so there's a subsidy there. There's another subsidy that works, though, just with the way that our property tax system works in Indiana, because it's a layering system. You got the county on the bottom. The county rate is at the bottom, and then we add layers to it. There are services that folks in town do not receive, but they pay for. And probably the clearest example of that is sheriff's patrols. I doubt very seriously if the county sheriff patrols regularly within the city limits of Sullivan. You have a police department. But all of your folks in town are paying for the sheriff. And that is lowering the cost of the sheriff to the folks who live outside town. So there are actually two subsidies that are working from the way that we set our corporate limits and the way that our property tax system works in Indiana. So those are the three reasons that I've heard again and again and again in community after community why we would ever want to do an annexation. Where may you annex? Well, in general, there is really only one rule. It has to be contiguous. And by contiguous, this is just simply a mathematical calculation. We measure the perimeter of the area that we want to annex. If 1/8 or 12.5% of that perimeter touches the corporate limits, we can annex it. That's the only requirement. So that's where you can annex, at least with respect to Sullivan. There are some further restrictions that towns may have. There are restrictions that you get into if you're near a county line, things like that. But we don't. I don't want to get so much into that tonight because it wouldn't apply to Sullivan. What is the process? And in a minute we're going to go through a timetable, but you've got essentially 6 steps to an annexation. First, you introduce the annexation ordinance and you adopt a fiscal plan by resolution. Now that fiscal plan is essentially what sets forth what folks outside in the annexation area are going to receive and how it is that you're going to pay for it. So that's the first step. The next step is you have to publish notice of a public hearing and you have to mail notice to everybody that's in the annexation area. And that has to be 60 days notice. Okay, it is by statute. We've got to give 60 days notice of that public hearing. You hold the public hearing. Then you have to wait at least 30 days before you can take final action on the ordinance after the public hearing. And then once you have taken the final action to adopt the annexation ordinance, you publish again the fact that you now have adopted it, and the ordinance will take effect in 90 days after the publication that it's been adopted. So if you add up all of those days, the minimum length of time that it takes beginning to end is 180 days. You really can't do that because that would require absolute perfection on being able to get things published in the newspaper immediately. It would require that your council meetings always fall on a perfect day. And so 180 days is really not realistic. An aggressive annexation, I would say, is one that's about 200 days beginning to end. But it can really go as really, you know, from if you will, tonight, it could go as long as you want because you've got some work to do. You've got to develop a fiscal plan, and then after the fiscal plan, you got to really start. So that process can be anywhere from 200 to really whatever it is that you want to allow. How can it be challenged? There really is only one way to challenge an annexation, and it is by remonstrance. A remonstrance, and all of this process is geared towards allowing folks in an annexation area to get organized, the time that they need to get educated and get organized, that if they want to fight an annexation, they can file a remonstrance. A remonstrance is filed. A remonstrance can only be filed if it is signed by 65% of the property owners in the annexation area, or by the owners of 75% of the assessed valuation in the annexation area. If there are not that number of signatures on the remonstrance petition, there is no remonstrance, and the annexation is final. So it takes that, I mean, it's just a pure numerical calculation. You either got it or you don't. If you don't have it, the annexation takes effect. If you do have it, then we have a remonstrance hearing, and that's kind of our next page. Well, what's that mean? A remonstrance has been filed. Does that mean we lose? No, it doesn't mean we lose. It means we go to court at that point to essentially have a judge decide whether or not the annexation is going to take effect. And the burden in court is going to switch. It's going to start with the city, and it's going to go with the landowners. The first thing the city has to prove is it has to prove that either the territory is zoned commercial, business, or industrial, or that it has a population density of at least 3 persons per acre, or that it's 60% subdivided. All three of those are intended to describe territory of a more urban type character, a developed type character. Or you have to prove that it's needed and can be used by the municipality for its development, and it's a higher level of contiguity than 25%. So either one of those, and then you have to prove that you've developed this fiscal plan that we talked about previously that satisfies the statutory requirements. And I'm not going to go into detail, but in a moment we are going to talk about a couple of those. But if you've done that, once the city carries its burden on that, then the burden flips to the remonstrators. And they would win if they prove all of the following. First, that they adequately receive their police protection, their fire protection, and their street and road maintenance from somebody other than the city that's trying to annex them. And then second, that the annexation will have a significant financial impact on them. Third, that it is not in their best interest to be annexed. And fourth, that it continues to be opposed by the number that had to sign the remonstrance petition, the 65% for the owners of 75% of the assessed value. If the municipality proves its items and the remonstrators fail on any one of those, any one of them, then municipality wins, the annexation takes effect. So you can, I mean, in fact, I've never lost a remonstrance. You can win a remonstrance if one is filed. And the objective, of course, when you start out the process is to prepare for it so that if one were filed, you can prevail. All right, this next page is the one that I think is probably frequently the most commonly misunderstood aspect of all annexation law. I can't tell you how many times I sit in meetings and I say what I'm about to say to you, and I get this look of shock and horror on the face of somebody I'm talking to. Well, that can't be. And it's like, yes, it is. It's because it's misunderstood. What must you provide, and when must you provide it to the annexation territory? Okay, that's what's misunderstood. And the statute pretty well spells out. First of all, the fiscal plan tells us what you must provide and when you must provide. If the fiscal plan tells you we're going to provide services X, Y, and Z, and we're never going to provide these services, and there's no remonstrance, that's your obligation. Only what's in the fiscal plan. So if I've had many communities adopt annexation ordinances knowing up front there isn't going to be a remonstrance. This is an annexation that people want. There's something here that they want. And so we're going to give an annexation fiscal plan that literally, if there were a remonstrance, we could not survive. We would not prevail, but we know there's not going to be one. And so they adopt a fiscal plan that spells out less than what the statute would require. That fiscal plan governs what it is they're to get. That's just it. Now, if we had a fiscal plan, though, that satisfied the statute for remonstrance, it would provide the following. Non-capital services, those are things like your police patrols, must begin within 1 year of the effective date of the annexation to the same extent that those patrols are provided within the corporate limits. Now that essentially means if you're in town and a police officer drives up and down your street twice a day, if you're in the annexation area, when that annexation, within a year of that annexation taking effect, a police officer needs to drive up and down that street twice a day. That's to the same extent. That's exactly what that means. Capital services are where people get confused. Capital services, things like extension of sewer service, that's a big one, or maybe street construction, that would be another one. Those must be provided within 3 years of the effective date, and they must be provided in the same manner that they are provided within the corporate limits. That means that if you require someone in town to pay for something in order to get a capital service, for instance, they have to pay for a sewer main to be extended, or they have to pay for a sidewalk to be constructed. If you do that in town, it is the same in the annexation area. They do not get a better deal than you are offering within the corporate limits. And so you will frequently hear people believe that, oh, that means I'm being annexed, that means I'm going to get all new streets within 3 years. No, that's not what that means. What that means is, and I'm assuming I know how Sullivan does its street construction. I'm assuming what you do is you have a budget, an amount that you can spend on street construction each year, and you have a priority list. And when you run out of money, you're done. It means within 3 years of the effective date of the annexation, those streets in the annexation area have to go on the priority list, just like every other street. When you run out of money, you're done. And it may be that the streets in the annexation area are bad enough that they need to go to the top, but they need to go on the list. That's what that means. If you annex an area, it does not mean everybody gets free sewer service. That is absolutely not what it means. It means that if you're in town and you want a sewer line extension and you have to cut a check to pay for it, within 3 years of the effective date of the annexation, you have to be able to offer that service to the annexation area to the same extent and in the same manner. Pay for it. So that's, as I said, the most frequently, what I would say, misunderstood aspect of annexation. Now, from your side, what about revenues? When will we receive any revenues if we do an annexation? Well, it's all driven by the assessment date. The assessment date in Indiana is March 1, and of course we pay taxes in arrears. So once we hit the very first March 1 that an area has now been annexed, then the next year after that, that area will commence paying the city tax rate. So, and we'll get to a timetable here in a minute that's geared towards hitting March 1, 2013. That would mean that the first assessment date that the area is in town is March 1, 2013. You would receive property taxes from that area starting in May of 2014. So there's a year lag there. I don't believe, Mayor, does Sullivan County have county option income tax or?
As an economic development
All right.
income tax.
So you would receive, and that generally is driven by proportional levies. In other words, we measure the various.
It's based on population.
It's based on population? All right, so it'll be a little bit different because many communities would have a county option income tax or a county adjusted gross income tax that is allocated among the units in the county based upon their budgets. You know, what the size of their budget is. Well, you know, that's a further year lag because then you don't get that money until 2015, which is, you know, even a year following the property tax receipt. But there is definitely a lag between annexation and the receipt of your first dollars. Then the last page, okay, you know, we've talked about remonstrance, we've talked about the process, we've talked, you know, about money. We're really not interested in fights with our neighbors. What can we do to make an annexation that is less likely to generate a lot of opposition? Well, there are a number of things that we can do. First of all, we can educate people about what it is that you're offering and exactly how much it's going to cost. With the advent of the property tax caps, I will tell you that the common homeowner, you know, is not going to be able to quickly figure out how much the addition of the city tax rate is actually going to hit their pocketbooks. But frequently, it's going to have a much less significant impact than they otherwise might believe. So education is a big key. In addition, we can build things into an annexation that are designed to respond and help ease some of the switch over to the city. We can build in a tax abatement program, which will essentially layer that tax rate over 4 years. You know, sort of ramp it up over a 4-year period. We can also delay the effective date of the annexation for a period of up to 3 years. We can, if we are annexing agricultural property, we have the ability to essentially exempt them from the municipal tax rate for a period not to exceed 10 years or until their property changes its zoning classification. In other words, it's going to develop. So we frequently use this if we're annexing an area that currently is farm ground, but the belief is it's not going to be farm ground forever. And so, you know, it has no financial impact on them, and the expectation would be that, well, by the time that 10-year exemption rolls off, it's going to be developed, and they would, you know, they'll be ready to pay the full rate. And then finally is just sort of listening to the folks. You know, we've got this very public process. We're going to hold public hearings and you know, meeting with folks. What are their concerns? What are the issues? What are the services that they want? You can't just, you know, force, you know, a certain level of service. I mean, you wouldn't want to go out there and say, well, we're going to put streetlights up on every corner. They may not want streetlights. And you know, also, you know, they certainly may not want to pay for streetlights. But so that's you know, kind of listening to it. I've heard some folks in annexation areas be concerned about, you know, they may currently keep horses or some sort of agricultural, you know, some sort of livestock, and they want to continue to keep that. And so, you know, just listening, maybe amending some ordinances to deal with that particular area so that it might ease their concerns. Those are the frequently asked questions. And before I move on to the timetable, any questions? Okay. Well, I have filled in some dates. You know, we went through that process a little while back. And I put together a draft timetable that, as I said, would allow us, should we want to pursue an annexation, to be complete by that March 1 assessment date. And then of course I've got, you know, I right off the bat I see on here, I forgot, I neglected to change the year on the last entry. It's 2013, not 2012. But what you will see here is draft of the annexation ordinance and fiscal plan ready for review by the city council. And I know the folks that have worked on the fiscal plan or have been working on the fiscal plan, they're going to be prepared to have for you that fiscal plan for review by next Monday. That's June 18th. And then you see that we've got built in almost a month for you to review and think about it and consider it and get us feedback and those kind of things, so that we could come back on the 10th of July and actually adopt a resolution that would implement that fiscal plan and introduce the annexation ordinance. We would then get the notice of the public hearing out on the 16th of July, hold the public hearing on the 9th of October, take a final vote on the ordinance on the 13th of November, hopefully get that vote published on the 16th, and the ordinance would take effect on the 15th of February, which would be our March 1 assessment date by about 2 weeks. Any questions on any of this before I turn it over to these folks to talk about the fiscal plan? There's contact information at the bottom of this if you get home tonight or tomorrow or whenever and realize, oh, I meant to ask something. Drop me a note or give me a phone call. I'm happy to answer it. So, thanks.
What's that?
Yeah.
Well, good evening, Mayor. Thank you for the invitation to be here tonight. Thank you, Mark, for your presentation too. And what I wanted to do this evening is to give you a brief overview of how we've gotten to the point we're at right now, where we have a proposed annexation area map, which appears on the board up there. Again, that map is subject to change as we finish our evaluation during the next several months and as you evaluate it during your review period. We were directed to look at primarily the west section of the city to extend outward to Highway 41. And in the yellow highlighted, the shaded area, you'll see where the proposed annexation boundaries extend from North Section Street, where it ties into Highway 41, continues along the west side of Highway 41, along this west side of the right-of-way. When we continue on here, you'll notice a little bump out here. This is because the tax parcel's here, a large tax parcel. So we have to pick up, generally you have to pick up the entire tax parcel to include that in the annexation. We continue southward down to Wolf Street, to Highway 154, and pick up the Hardee's, the Days Inn development, and then continue southward, tying back in to where Section Street ties back into Highway 41. And then we continue eastward to the current city limits. Now the city of Sullivan right now is, total acreage is about 1,188 acres, plus or minus. The proposed annexation area is 1,799 acres. So we're more than doubling the corporate limits if the annexation were processed and approved. Population-wise, we had the 2010 census information released not too long ago. Current population, according to the U.S. Census of the city of Sullivan, is 4,249 people. And in the proposed annexation area, that includes an area that's been estimated with a population of 322 people. So not a tremendous increase in your population, but it is in acreage. Based on our research that we did with the tax appraiser's office, tax assessor, and the county mapping, GIS mapping that was provided to us through their consultant, we've identified approximately 340 separate parcels in the annexation area that is shown on the maps that you're looking at now. Of course, all the information that I'm presenting to you will be in the final report, that final fiscal analysis report. There's about 142 residential structures, commercial structures in that area too, of the total acreage. I want to provide you just a little overview of the property valuation in the proposed annexation area. 2013 real property assessed value, this is the gross, is approximately $31.4 million. The exemptions are almost $11 million, with a net value of taxation of approximately $20.5 million. Now, in our analysis, just looking at the county's property valuations, have fluctuated from about 1.5% above and below average, about a 0% increase over the past several years. And so, using that information, our fiscal report will reflect no anticipated increase in property values, tax rates, or significant population growth. And what we've been able to identify at this point, and again, this is a number that will fluctuate as we continue on with the report and as your evaluation takes place and perhaps parcels are added or deleted. But we've looked at a projected tax revenue of about $200,000 in this area that would be coming to the city. That's just property tax revenue. Of course, in any situation like this, there will be costs to the city, and we've been able to talk to a number of department heads, different folks in the city, to identify, at least at the preliminary stage, potential costs associated with the annexation, taking on that area from both capital and non-capital services that Nick had mentioned. I'll start off with police. In discussions with the police chief, he indicated that at present time, the county does serve that area that is identified as proposed annexation area. The deputy sheriff patrols that area. If the annexation were to move forward, the chief would identify that there'd be one additional officer that he believes would need to be added, and that would be because at this point in time, what happens is the first responder is the county deputy. If a backup is needed, or if the county deputy is responding to a call 5 miles down the road, then the city of Sullivan Police Department will respond to that call, whether it's shoplifting at Walmart or whatever incident's taking place. So basically, we've been able to confirm that the city police department is actually serving this area as a backup to the sheriff's department. And in the annexation, they would continue to serve as needed, but they would also be patrolling that area. There's additional costs associated with that, and that will be specified in the fiscal report that will be delivered. Also, in discussions with the fire chief, at this point in time, the city has a contract with Hamilton Township to serve the township. And the proposed annexation area obviously doesn't extend beyond the township. So the city is already providing fire services in that particular area, in that area that's highlighted in yellow. However, the city also does receive revenue from Hamilton Township, I believe, of $60,000 for that service. And in discussions with the chief, preliminarily, it appears that there would be no additional need for manpower or equipment to serve in that area. They're currently doing it now. The difference is that there would be perhaps a change in the contract with Hamilton Township, and the revenue that would come in now would be adjusted because being in the city, that would be determined. As far as streets go, there are no streets planned. You don't go out and build sidewalks, put street lights in, and so there would be no street maintenance issues other than general maintenance that would need to be addressed this time. Same thing with parks and recreation. No additional services from that perspective. Water and sewer is a very unique issue that Nick brought up, and with me is Brian Nielsen, who's our engineering manager in our Indianapolis office, water and sewer specialist. And basically what we found out is water and sewer are being provided in the annexation area to various levels of service. There'll be more information in the report about that. But again, this is another particular service that you are providing, and those landowners in that area pay a surcharge for sewer. 25% surcharge is what we understand. So that surcharge, in essence, they'll be refunded, so to speak. So there's a benefit there to those folks. Water is private; that's a little different situation there. But in addition to the big number that comes from the property valuation, there are a number of other revenue streams that will now would come into the city if the annexation was approved. The motor vehicle highway funds, local road and street funds, and of course the surtax and wheel charge, which is wheel tax about $2,700 a month, plus or minus, depending on what month it is. But in the fiscal report, we address all these issues. We do the projections. We also look at the capital cost, non-capital cost, and then as we finalize the report, wrap it up with a legal description, and you have a map, and then it goes forward to go through the overall process. But again, this map is probably the 5th iteration. It still gets tugged and moved around a little bit as we try to make things work, meet the criteria, and to ensure that we're annexing areas that should be annexed. And really, that's about all I had. I'd be glad to answer any questions from anyone. Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. If they don't have city sewer, how is that addressed?
Well, and if it's, say if it's a new development going in.
It's an
Existing development, it might be my understanding they would continue to stay on septic tank at such time that sewer is extended to that area within the projected in the capital improvement program.
It's my understanding if they don't want sewer,
They don't want sewer.
they don't get sewer.
You know, let me add a couple of caveats, because there could be a health issue. I mean, it's entire, so I don't want to say never would you force them to hook up. If they had a failing septic system in the health department, we're saying they've got to hook up, then you could perhaps force them to hook up. But you have the ability to force any property owner whose property is within 300 feet of an available sewer to connect to your sewer. You do not have to do that, and in fact, you can, if you wish, put into your fiscal plan. This is that point I made earlier about your fiscal plan is what tells us what people are going to get and what they aren't going to get. If you wanted to put in the fiscal plan, for instance, a commitment that we would not force anyone to connect unless in the event of a health issue, and I've done that in some communities, to sort of appease concerns that I don't want sewer, so please don't force me to take it by annexation.
And when you say, is that just for the individual that owns the property at the time, or does that go when they sell it to the next people?
It would
It's a
govern.
lifetime.
It would govern as long as there's no
A
health issue.
lifetime.
It would essentially be a statement that we will not force connection in this area absent a health issue.
Okay. Then I have one other question. So then in the 41 corridor, US 41.
Yep.
So these guys can go patrol that now and write speeding tickets.
That would be my understanding.
Is that how that's going to be set up? So when the state police writes a ticket, it's in the city of Salt.
Legally, I mean, I know at one time, under, I believe Mayor Bonham, the city had the public endangerment, where they would go outside the city limits, and actually there were some tickets written out on Highway 41 during that time, and it came into the city's account because they weren't state citations. So it's my understanding that we have the ability to even do that now.
Yeah, I mean, is your question, would we be?
Would we be writing them, or if a state trooper writes it, do we receive it?
Right, that's my question.
Well, if a state trooper writes a citation on Section Street as it currently stands, I don't think that we see any financial benefit from it.
If we had a city court, then they could pick either city or county, correct? That's,
If we had a city court, yes, and there are third-class
They
cities
have-
that do
they
have their
can-
own city judge and
they,
city court.
they can pick when they're writing the ticket, who gets the revenue,
We do
correct?
that down in Knox County all the time, they ship people clear over to Victor. It turns out the judge got indicted for embezzling a lot of money, it turned out, but still, they shipped a lot of them to Victor. When you got a ticket going down 41, you had to go clear to Victor to pay the darn thing. But I had a lot of clients, some of it turns out to be nothing but a speed trap, so I got mixed feelings about it.
No,
First,
it's
they
not
did
about
nothing,
the
but-
speed,
Yeah, just
my
wondering how the
question,
revenue works.
how the
They
revenue,
can
so if
ship
we're
it to
gonna
the
put
city
these
if they
guys,
want.
you know, obviously, they're gonna go, hey, I need to write a ticket, this is gonna be pretty easy to jump out here on the highway.
Yep.
So we're gonna be spending more money running 70 miles an hour to slow somebody down to gain nothing, or?
I mean, I think
You
that
see
would be,
my
I
question,
think that
but
would be something within,
I just was curious
Yeah.
how that's all going.
whether we ask our officers to really do that or not, we don't necessarily have to do
They
that.
don't have to.
It don't
Shelburne
matter.
did it for a long time, Scott.
Yeah, I know
Guys out
they
on
did.
41, they bombed it, they thought they were gonna make money off of it, but
Right.
they don't have to write tickets out there. Some cities, you go on the interstate, some of these
Right.
little town police will come clear
I
out
can tell you a
town
story about
limits and
that.
sell on the interstate and get out tickets, you know? So there's all kinds of stories that can be told, but your
Right.
question is, yeah, they can
That-
say it in
that-
this.
they are- that 41 is really not in the town of Shelburne, right?
Oh, well, some
Yeah.
of it is. Yeah,
Shelburne is on both sides,
It is, okay.
Yeah.
and that's why I guess
I think
it's
Farmersburg's got a little
troubling.
section too, I think it's on both sides at Farmersburg.
You know, or interesting to me that a town the size of Farmersburg has grown. The town of Shelburne has grown to both sides, but yet the county seat has set and never grown.
When you told me that it's been since 1959 that Sullivan's done the annexation, I was stunned. And when you drive outside Sullivan and see the areas that are outside Sullivan, it is shocking. All of this stuff out on 41 absolutely should be in Sullivan. Everything north of town to 41 absolutely should be in Sullivan. That is unquestionably being subsidized by folks that live here. And it's gonna hit you hard and harder with the advent of property tax caps. I mean,
Do those take a hit here in Sullivan?
the days of, you know, being able to sit by and let folks live outside town and enjoy services for free or at reduced prices is, you just can't do anymore.
And I'd say too, just, you know, from our work in other communities, it's very unusual to have the kind of relationship that takes place with, you know, with the fire and law enforcement. You are serving those areas from water to sewer, police and fire, and not getting the full compensation for what you're doing and for it taking place for a number of years too.
And the fact that you're providing those services is why those areas look like they do. I mean, that's the reason why they're so developed. Because they wouldn't develop if you weren't providing police, if you weren't providing fire, if you hadn't extended the sewer, those areas would not be there.
Back to Scott's question, would that not, and I'll ask maybe Deb, would that not be the same thing as far as writing a ticket just like you would on Section Street? So if the police write a ticket, I don't know what you call it now,
City ordinance.
city ordinance ticket on 41, the money would come to the city.
But is
But
that
if
for
they,
speeding?
but if they wrote a
Can
state
you write a
ticket-
city ordinance for speeding? And or is that a state statute? I mean, I don't want to spend no time because it's.
In
really
our
doesn't
city
matter.
ordinances, do we have speeding?
Right.
Is the City
I don't
ordinance
think so, dude.
already on the books?
I don't think it
So,
is.
I think it's just like,
I
I don't
think
think,
it's public
like stop signs.
endangerment. I
Yeah,
think
it's my
public
understanding it was public endangerment, which included speeding.
Which is,
Yeah.
which they can write for anything, I mean, you're endangering the public.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty minor, but that was just a question that,
So those tickets would come back to the city. If it was a big infraction and they wanted to write a state ticket, you know, so that they would go through court, then they could like.
You know, a speeding ticket out on 41, and then we're gonna be done with this. If you're running 70 and a 50, are we gonna get the $185 ticket?
We see a small portion of that.
Very small.
Very small.
About $3, isn't it?
About
So
$3.
what
About
is a
$3.
small portion?
About $3.
$3.
$3 a ticket.
So it ain't worth your $3.50 in gas to write the ticket.
We'd have to write a lot of them,
Basically,
yeah.
it ain't, okay. Forget the speeding deal.
You see, the city court too, Scott, you got a lot of hidden costs, you know, the city court judge and Terrell, what you have to pay for your bailiffs and your court personnel, staffing, audio equipment. It gets really expensive just to say we're gonna set up a court, like the one in the courthouse, it's gonna be what, $500,000 for a new courtroom or something like that. So you can get in, I'm not saying that'll be anywhere near like that.
Yeah, no,
It can be a lot of, you have to write a lot of tickets to justify it, for certain. It's a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, no, I don't.
I mean, I think it's quite obvious, the residents have seen this, and the council's seen this, and all the board members. Obviously, as he mentioned, the property tax caps are affecting Sullivan. They're affecting all over the state. And the state's gonna provide less and less help, except to communities that are willing to step up and help themselves. And as Pete pointed out in the newspaper, I like catchy little mottos and slogans. But this to me, it truly is, and I always, in my head, I think of it as the 2 F's. And this is it's future and fairness. You know, I spoke to the Sullivan Elementary School 3rd graders several weeks ago, and we talked about a lot of different things. And if the city of Sullivan, if they all knew that the city had a motto and a slogan, and of course the teachers didn't know we had a slogan, the kids didn't know we had a slogan, and it was take time to care. But we touched among a lot of things among the 3rd graders, and quite frankly, pretty directly, I said, you know, what happens as 3rd graders, or as humans, if we quit growing? You're dead. If we don't grow as people, if we're not growing continuously, we're dead. And it's the same with the city of Sullivan. I know by looking at this map, it looks overwhelming. It's like, wow, boy, that's a lot of area all at once. You know, why so drastic? Quite frankly, we're playing catch up. The fact that we have not grown since 1959. I would love to see downtown become an economic powerhouse and a retail unit, but let's face it, it's not going to happen. Can we create a better downtown? Can we beautification and have nice things downtown? Absolutely. But the future of our community is Highway 41, obviously. And folks talk about what happened in the city of Sullivan. Well, I remember 30 years ago, and I remember 40 years ago. And let's talk about Sullivan 15 years ago. Central Elementary School left the city limits. Well, granted, they didn't pay property taxes, but they left. Mary Sherman Hospital, they left the city limits. How many doctors and how many patients and how many family members and drug reps used to come downtown Sullivan and spend their money here? Well, now they're coming out to the highway. So we've lost that activity. People throughout this side of Graysville and throughout all the kids that used to go to Central Elementary School, and they came downtown at 3 o'clock, and I'm sure they used to come in the newsstand and get a drink and get their newspaper, and they spent money downtown. And
A couple of nursing homes moved out too.
the activity came downtown, which is why the Central School concept is to recreate activity downtown with the Central Park. I'm glad that the surgery center's over here, but and third and foremost, the REMC, or Wind Energy, whatever it is now. Folks from all over the county used to drive downtown Sullivan to pay their electric bill. And while they were downtown, they got gas and they shopped here, and well, those folks aren't coming downtown anymore. The future of our community is moving. And if we just sit back and don't move with it, we're dead. And I don't want this to be an us versus them, the 4,300 people versus the 320 people that are going to be affected, because it's us. It's a community as a whole. But at the same time, the other F, the fairness issue. It's not fair to these 4,300 people that live in this city to continue to pay for the services for the ones that don't. It's not fair to the gentleman that lives on East Jackson Street or out on High Street who can't maybe afford to live out on the Highway 41 corridor, but yet he pays for the services for the ones that do. It's not fair. And I think it really boils down to the city motto, taking time to care, making an effort in the future of the city and the fairness. This job is all consuming, and It's just every day I ask myself, how can we make our community better? And I can't. We need people, we need the community to come together, and we have to grow. The fire department has found out that these 4,300 people can no longer afford to pay for that service. They can't. But yet the folks are using their service. And I just hope that as we move forward in these next few months, that the council really thinks about these things. Yeah, black and white, it's gonna look great. You're gonna love when these financial figures come out and you see the financial impact. And we've already balanced the budget this year. And in addition to a balanced budget, we'll have increased revenues. Can you imagine that, us in the black? With money in the bank to provide more efficient services, to rebuild our departments, to rebuild our infrastructure. And it's my pledge, as long as I'm here these next 4 years, I will never, ever propose a tax rate increase. That's why we're expanding. That's why we're wanting to grow, so we don't have to continue to punish these 4,300 people and increase the tax rates. This offsets that tax rate increase. The sewer sleeve is a prime example. City tax dollars are paying for a sewer sleeve right now at the Sullivan County Community Hospital. You don't have to say so in that. You don't have a dog in that fight. Now, I can't tell what the future is going to hold. I don't know if any of this area is ever really going to develop. But I bet 30 years ago they said that this was never going to develop. You don't know. We've got to make long-term decisions. Not Band-Aid solutions, but a true long-term buy-in. And I hope you'll join me. Yes, sir.
Have you ever considered Lakeside?
One at a time, sir.
You know, you don't want to fight.
To be honest with you,
It's not contiguous.
it's not contiguous to the city, but there are several folks out there that have already signed a waiver that they cannot file a remonstrance. So actually, legally, that's an easier battle to go. But is my city growing east? In property taxes, and this isn't residents versus business, but you're going to receive more property tax revenue by commerce and business than you are residential homes out east.
Well, I know that they're still getting our services, they're still getting our sewer, which cost us a lot of money to have to do our sewer.
That's correct.
I don't know what all, but I know that they're getting these services. And it looks like that would be a part of the annexation.
And down the road, you know, who knows? You know, future administrations might look into that. You know, our main focus is picking up Highway 41. Marshall, Illinois, prime example. I-70 came through, they went to I-70. It happens everywhere, every day, all the time. Why are we different? To be quite honest with you, the 4,300 folks in this city ought to be raging mad right now. They ought to be up in arms. You think we had some people fired up 60 days ago? These people ought to be irate.
I tell you what, I'm irate because you still haven't got lights on the flag. That's
What?
just bugging me.
Lights on the American flag here that we just
That's
put
right.
up.
Either you get
The fire
lights on it,
department's
or
been
you
working
take
on
it
it every
down.
evening.
You take it down at sunset and you put it up at sunrise.
There's lights out there now.
We'll take care of the flag.
They just got them in the last 2 days.
This week we got it.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on the item 1 here?
That's it.
I want to thank GAI for coming down and Nicholas Cox from Barnes and Thornburg. We appreciate it.
Paperwork to look at starting next Monday.
Okay, on that paper, will that be just one copy for,
No, you'll.
Everybody
you'll
will
all
receive
get
it.
You'll all get it.
The whole
and that will come to
town copies.
City Hall?
Well,
You gonna mail it?
there are a couple different ways that we can do it. If anybody, if you can give me your email address, or if you want to, if you have email, if you want to shoot me an email to the email address that's on that, then I'll make sure anything I send out you get, and I'll also forward it to these guys so that. Otherwise, what we'll do, we're gonna send anything to the mayor, and so, you know, the
I've
mayor.
tried to keep forwarding.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But as far as
I didn't know if you were gonna,
companies,
you know, it was gonna be a stack of papers. with
I-
all
I-
we're gonna
I'd
flood
much
your
rather-
computers with a big old.
I'd much rather distribute it electronically. It's easier.
It's right now, it's about a 25-page document. It's got 11 by 17 map, and everything else is 8.5 by
We can
11.
print those out up here at City Hall
We,
and distribute them in everybody's mailboxes or bring them to your house, however's convenient.
Whatever your preference is.
I like to get it both, that way I can read it going to work, coming home, maybe a little, kill a little time.
Not while you're driving.
Next week.
When he's writing.
Oh, no.
Okay, when you're driving. Okay, anything else? You have anything?
I can get all you guys' email addresses and send them up to
That'd be
him.
great.
That'll be perfect.
However you guys want to do it.
However you want to do it, we'll get it to you however you wish.
You need to get that?
Okay, item number 2. Oh, you got another question on this?
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna have something ready the 18th, is the 10th our regular meeting or what?
Yes, the
Yeah.
10th our council meeting.
All
So
of those
several
dates are
weeks.
set to coincide with regular meetings.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we didn't need to set a meeting or something.
It's always my preference not to have to schedule special meetings
Yeah, I just didn't realize
unless
that was our.
it's absolutely essential.
Yeah, 'cause that kinda threw me on the July 16th, but that's just your mail.
That's just the
That's
mailing
mail,
of
it
those.
has nothing to do, right?
In
That's
general,
not a date.
things work much better both for you and from the public standpoint if we don't have to mess with the schedule. They know when you meet, and that's when the meetings will be. Anything else?
Yeah, it looks like it.
All right.
thank you.
Hey, Nick,
Yes.
May?
do you have a fax number maybe?
Yes, 317-231-7433. We'll have it, I guess, for a few more years, right?
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, item number 2, the demolition of homes. I'm sure everybody saw today's paper, and I appreciate the support from the Sullivan paper wherever they're at. What do I do, just set a recorder and leave now?
No, he went out to talk to them guys.
Oh, okay. Another initiative, they gotta go, right, B?
Right.
They gotta go. You know, we have been playing this game, cat and mouse, you know, for several years. Does the city take the initiative? You know, is it our responsibility? Well, you know, when you've condemned a home for 6 years, and when you've mowed and maintained for 6 years, like exactly what the health and safety inspector, I should say, not building commissioner, whatever, said you gotta catch your losses and moving towards this land bank. So, of course, you've got a building commission report, but if you kind of want to just elaborate, that way the council is abreast of what's going on, why the homes were targeted, the ones that we have. There were 2 targeted in the Sullivan paper, and demolition is expected to start in approximately 2 weeks. Kind of give us some timeline of when those will be completed, and then the remaining 6 that we're going to target, and we're going to try to, before snow flies, have 8 homes. Well, former homes, whatever they are today, lots that are cleaned up and taken care of. So.
The reason we chose the 2 that we did is because the one on Donaldson Street was foreclosed on by Fifth Third Bank, and they didn't take title to it, and they've never taken responsibility for it. They've never answered our letters, and we can obviously see nothing's going to happen. If we don't do it, it's not going to get done. And the same thing with 722 East Beach. Both these houses have been on fire, and they're both the same MO. You know, if we don't do it, it's not going to get done.
Yeah, and I also, and this is where the council plays a very key role in this. You guys are all elected officials from districts, from different precincts, and you know, and I appreciate Jack obviously helping bring to the attention of the one at 722 East Beach Street. But you know, my kids are said, Dad, I'm tired of going for a ride. Dad, I'm tired of going for a ride. Let's go home. Why do you keep looking at these houses, Dad? But you know, I guess I come to the council and ask be sure to look in your neighborhoods and be sure to go around and talk with residents and hear their concerns and help bring these properties to the attention. I know Brian does a good job of getting out and about, but you know, they are your areas, and those are the folks that you're there to represent. So And that's why I really wanted to bring this up to the council this evening to let you know, keep you up to snuff on what we are doing, what the plan commission's doing.
So we've got 6 or 7 of them that we think are the top ones. There's plenty more, but we prioritized them and really don't want to list the others because it's not fair to the people that, haven't got the paperwork in the mail again, likely, in the last 6 or 8 months. But these others, they just get letter after letter, and like I said, they're not going to do anything. And they're out of town lending institutions that own them, and we are definitely going to put the cost against the property lien. It's not like we're doing it and don't expect to get our money back. We do expect to get our money back in one way, shape, or form. So.
What about the one on 329 East Jackson, right north of me there? Trees growing up front porch, trees growing up back porch?
Want an honest answer, it wouldn't be in the top 25.
I don't give a damn about that. I want to clean up. No far.
But if you want to put me on the spot, it's not a house that would make the list.
I don't care about that.
Boy.
Do your job.
Question.
Wow.
Was that 3,000
Do your
apiece or
job. That's what
Don't
you
be
gotta
coming
do.
in my office.
6,000 apiece?
What's that?
These 2 that you're gonna tear down? You said
We
the
projected,
paper said 6,000.
I don't think it's gonna be quite that much.
But that's for 2 of them.
No, that was approximately a piece,
A piece?
6,000 a piece.
That's what the whole problem is.
He said 6,000 for both.
Yeah.
The thing is, the one on Donaldson Street has a big tree, huge tree. It's been hit by lightning, and that adds some cost to it.
Okay, yeah, it was gonna be 3,000, but because
Right.
there's yard things to be done too. The actual structure itself was 3.
Right.
So one could be about 400 to 4,500. But, those funds are,
It's about what property lot sells or used to sell for.
Yeah, actually, lots are worth about 3,500, a lot of them. And what happens, the taxes get to be up above the lot value. Then when you add demolition to them, people's not gonna buy them. They're not gonna take the initiative to buy something that's worth less than what they pay for it.
but you hope you get it cleaned up and somebody does buy that lot and does develop it and then it does come back on the tax rolls. So the immediate effect hurts today and we don't see any direct, maybe
We're picking
revenue,
the ones
but
that
over
been on
time,
fire.
long term.
We're picking the ones that have been on fire and that have crumbling and have overgrown all the way around them, there's a lot of them.
So out on East Beach, when that's cleaned up, how could that be bought?
That remains to be seen.
Right.
That's on the list, that remains to be seen.
Developing the land bank that we're trying to move towards.
Or it's not actually a land bank, it's a thing with the county. John Elmore's working
Right,
on the
I
list.
mean, I understand all that, but, so we're gonna tear it down now. And if somebody wanted to buy it next week, they can't. As soon as it's cleaned up, it cannot be bought. The city still has to maintain the law.
Until such a time that we get clear with the county. People, the
Right,
misnomer is, because they're in the city limits, they think they belong to the
I
city.
right, I mean, I get
Well,
all
most
that.
people don't understand that when you don't pay your taxes, they belong to the
But
county.
that was my question is, and I just, in my office, read through the paper real quick. Could it be bought next week, but it can't be. Still, Fifth Third would be the legal owner.
They use a
whatever-
loophole, they
whatever
use a
one.
loophole of not taking title, but they do own it.
I mean, it's a conversation that's been in.
They try to out-litigate us is what they do.
That is true. Oh, go ahead. That is true, because I bought a little piece of a lot down there next to the railroad, and I had to buy it from the county. Been a long time ago. I don't, that's strange, but I understood what you were saying.
Did
You
you
know,
have
it
to
goes
clean
back
it
to
up?
the county.
Did you have to clean it up when you bought it?
Yeah,
Okay, well, just checking.
Anything else on the cleaning up of the homes? Okay, item number 3, Paul Hoffner is wanting to come speak to the council this evening, but evidently he didn't make it tonight. So. All right, department reports. that'd be a deletion for me. I don't wanna delete them all. Police department.
For starters, since the last board of works meeting, Chiefs had us up on square. Since then, we have made 3 arrests and issued 17 citations. Last month, we've worked 23 vehicle accidents. We worked 6 break and enter